In this set of videos, I'm going to demonstrate how you can create an animated cutscene for your game. The cutscene in question will be a simple dungeon scene with two walls forming a corner, a floor, and a treasure chest on the floor. And I will show you how to make that, how to build that scene, but also how to add some optional features. For example, the lid of the treasure chest coming open. I've opened a Blender file. I've saved it cutscene, so it's already saved. I've left the light and the camera in, and I've also left the initial block. So I'm going to work from what I have here at the moment. The first thing I'm going to create is the dungeon walls, and I'm going to do that by adding a texture to this block, manipulating the UV map to make it fit, and then creating several of these blocks to build a larger wall. So I'm going to rotate round. These videos do assume that you have a basic working knowledge of Blender. If you don't, then you'll need to perhaps refer to the videos from previous courses at Northern College in order to develop that working knowledge. So I'm going to maneuver it so about there so I can see my block. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press N to bring up the transform menu, and I'm going to make it a little, well, quite considerably less wide on the y-axis. I'm going to put 0.01. And I'm going to leave 2 meters and 2 meters. And now I've got a sort of a thin wall. It doesn't matter about the thickness because you won't see the wall from the side. You'll only ever see it from the front. I'm going to change straight away into viewport shading material preview because I am going to be adding a texture to this wall. So I'm going to click that, zoom out a bit, and then I'm going to click on the materials tab, and I'm going to click the base color button there, and I'm going to change it to an image texture. I'm going to click open, and I've saved the floor texture and the wall texture, and these will be available on Teams for you to download and save. But for this time, I'm going to pick the wall texture, and I'm going to double click in here, and I'm going to call it wall. So as we know from our experience adding textures and UV mapping, we know that texture may not fit automatically. This is not rotated and it's not scaled properly. So I'm going to edit the UV maps to get this looking as it should do. So I'm going to go to UV editing. I'm going to just move this slightly over so I can access the material preview button, and I'm going to pull that back over again, and I'm going to look at my model from the front by pressing 1. And then I'm going to, it's already in edit mode. If it isn't in edit mode, you need to go to edit mode, move your mouse over the shape, press U, UV Smart Project, and put an island margin of maybe 0.05 and click unwrap. And you'll see that your UV maps have unwrapped here. Now, I only want this map to be displayed on one side of the cube, so you don't have to map the whole cube. So I'm going to go into face select. I'm going to click on the front face, and it's this UV map here. I'm going to press G and X to sort of move it into the center, so it's kind of over that black dot. I'm going to press S to scale it and make the UV panel a bit larger so it kind of fits over the whole image, and then press left click to deselect it. Then I'm going to press R to rotate, because as you can see the bricks are going in the wrong direction. So I'm going to press R to rotate. I'm going to hold down Control so that it rotates in increments of 5. I'm going to rotate it until it's rotated to 90 degrees. I'm going to press the left mouse button to release it. I'm going to deselect it. I'm looking at that. Have I rotated it the wrong way perhaps? Maybe not. I'm going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to go back into my layout mode where my cube is now textured quite well. It looks okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move. I'm still in orthographic mode in 1. So I pressed 1 to view it from the front. And I'm going to click on my cube. I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate it. I'm going to press Z. So I only want to move it up the Z axis. And I'm going to move it until it's kind of aligned with. I might need to zoom in. There's a tiny little gap that I'm going to just close up. I'm going to hold down Shift so it doesn't move as far. And I'm going to get it as near as I can. And that's much better. So I've got my wall there, and that's 4. These are both 2 meters high, so that's a 4 meter wall there. So I'm going to click on the bottom one, hold Shift, click on the top one. I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate. I'm going to move it along the X axis by pressing X. I'm going to bring it across, and again I'm going to position it using Shift. Now I'm building that section of my wall. I'm going to click once, hold down Shift, select all 4 of them, press Shift and D, press X to move it only across the X axis, get it into position. So that I've built the first of my walls. Yeah. So now I'm going to add a wall to run along this axis here. So I'm going to lasso select them all. I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate them. I'm going to just click off to release them. I'm going to press R. I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to. No, I'm not. First of all, I'm going to press Escape. I'm going to press R. I'm going to press Z because I want to rotate them along the Z axis. I'm going to hold down Control. And I'm going to rotate them until they are 90 degrees. I'm going to press the left button to release them. You may notice that I've duplicated the light by mistake. So I'm going to click on the light and I'm going to click delete. And then I'm going to select these again. I shouldn't really have let go of them, but I can select them by holding down Shift, pressing the left mouse button, and sort of moving around so I can get them, I can catch them properly. Then I'm going to press 7 to go into orthographic mode from the top, and I'm going to press G, hold down Shift and press Z so as not to move it along the Z axis. I'm going to sort of move it to that position. I'm going to see how that's looking. Not perfect, but we're not a million miles off. I'm going to press G and X to move it so it's kind of corner to corner. G and Y, sort of. I think that looks okay. That looks all right to me. So that's my wall done. A bit of housekeeping. I'm going to right click on collection. I'm going to go to new. I'm going to call this collection wall. I'm going to click on each of my wall sections, holding down Shift as I do. And then from the outliner, I'm going to drag all of them into my wall object and collapse my wall object. There is my wall done. So before I go any further, I'm going to press Ctrl and S to save my work. And now I'm going to add the floor. So I'm going to press Shift and A. I'm going to add a cube. And this time I'm going to change the Z value to 0.01. So it's lower rather than not as deep. And then I'm going to go into orthographic mode. I'm going to press G and Z. I'm going to pull it down so it fits into the floor there. and I'm going to press G and Y to move it across so it sort of fits there as well. So that's the first panel of my floor. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on the Materials tab. I'm going to click on New, the yellow circle after base color. I'm going to change that to image texture. I'm going to open the floor texture. And as last time, it's too big, it needs scaling down. So I'm going to go into UV editing. I'm going to just change the angle a little here, and I'm going to move my cursor, checking that I'm in edit mode, move my cursor over the new mesh, press U, and then Smart UV Project. Change leave the island margin, it's set from last time 0.05, and click Unwrap. So making sure that face select is active, I'm going to click on the top face. I'm going to press G, Z to move. Actually, I'm going to press G and Y to move my UV down so it's in the center. I'm going to press S to scale it up until it is the same size as the image. Then I'm going to quick layout, see what that looks like. So I've got my dungeon wall and I've got a section of dungeon floor. So now I'm going to make duplicates of these meshes so that I can fill this whole floor section. Now, a little bit of housekeeping, and this is more important because currently as I add new objects, it's adding them into my wall collection, which I don't want. So I'm going to right click, new, this collection I'm going to call floor. I'm going to click on my floor and it's this cube full stop 016. I'm just going to drag it over to my floor collection, collapse my wall collection. And so with my floor selected, I'm going to press Shift and D. I'm going to press X to move it solely along the X axis. Let's go to orthographic mode, press 7 to view it from above. Zoom out a little. Sort of arrange it. I'm going to press G and X to move it. I'm going to sort of move it until I'm satisfied that it's almost in place. And I'm going to click left click, hold down Shift, left click, press Shift and D to duplicate, X to move them solely along the X axis, just sort of positioning them so that they fit nicely. There's no gaps. Now you can see the floor taking shape there, so I'm going to again go tap 7 to go into the orthographic view, hold down Shift, click on each one in turn, hold down Shift and press D, tap Y because I want to move them along the Y axis this time, so move them slowly using Shift so there's no gaps. Then I'm going to click on them all in turn, press Shift and D to duplicate, Y to move along the Y axis, and just sort of move them into place so they fit nicely. And now when I sort of move my mouse around, I've got my dungeon all set up, my dungeon wall all set up, ready to build my my treasure chest on it. I'm going to press Ctrl and S to save my work. I'm going to collapse my floor. I'm also going to hide my wall and floor collection because I don't need them for the time being. So I'm going to hide them so they're out of the way. The chest is roughly two parts. It's a cube to represent the box and a cylinder to represent the lid. But as the tutorial goes on, I'm going to add some other features to it to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to press Shift and A, and I'm going to go to Mesh, Cube. I'm going to resize my cube to about 0.8 across the X-axis, at 0.5 0.4 across the Y and 0.4 across the Z. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and that gives me my sort of box, my chest box there. And I'm going to double click in here and I'm going to rename that to box. I'm then going to press Shift and A. I'm going to go to Mesh, Cylinder. And this cylinder is way too big, but it's also rotated incorrectly, or it's rotated correctly, but it's not rotated across the axis that we want. So I want to sort of spin it that way, so it sits on top of my box. So I'm going to rotate it across the Y axis by pressing R, Y, 90. Now, because I've rotated it, all the axes in that model, the local axes, the axes that belong to the mesh, not the world itself, are now rotated, which means when I resize it, it's going to resize in a peculiar way. For example, if I resize it across the x-axis, let's say to 4 meters, you'll notice that it's increased in height rather than increased across the x-axis. So I'm going to press Ctrl and Z to undo that. And I'm going to do something called Apply Transforms. And what this will do, it will reset the rotation that I've made so that all of the axes within this mesh are the same as those within the bigger world. So I'm going to click on my cylinder. I'm going to press Ctrl A and I'm going to click All Transforms. And then I'm going to resize my mesh to 0.8, 0.4, 0.4. And then I'm going to pick a upward view. I'm going to press G and Z, and I'm going to lift my cylinder up so that it roughly fits on top of my my box. Now, roughly, if I go into Z, if you've used the same dimensions as me and I put 0.2, I know now that it's fitted perfectly onto my box. I'm going to go into cylinder here, and I'm going to rename this lid. I'm going to press enter. So now I've got my box and my lid, and we can now see the chest beginning to take shape. It is, of course, a little bit boring, so I'm going to add a few more features to it to make it look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to add some banding, like metal bands that go up the side of the box and across the top of the lid. And I'm going to add them in a way that makes it kind of easy to add them and include them, but gives us the opportunity to later, if we choose to delve a little bit deeper and make this model a bit more advanced, to reuse those features for that purpose. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm going to put the banding across the top first of all. So I'm going to click on the lid. I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate, and I'm going to click the left mouse button just to release it. And I'm going to make it a little bit larger across the Y and the Z axis. So I'm going to go to sort of 0.45, 0.45, and I'm going to take a look at how that looks. Okay, that looks okay. And now I'm going to turn on something called X-ray mode, which will allow me to view the wireframe of this model, so I can get a better look at where I need to position this new cylinder. So I'm going to press Shift and Z, and you'll see now when I press 3 and look at it from the side, you'll see that my banding is perfectly positioned. Don't worry too much about the fact it overhangs here at the bottom. Don't worry about that. We're going to sort that later. I'm going to press Shift and Z to come out of X-ray mode. I'm now going to resize my banding across the Y at the X axis, and I'm going to click in X and I'm going to type 0.1. And now you see it's sort of thinned out a little bit. It's not the full width of the model. And I'm going to press G and X and I'm going to move it across Then I'm going to press Shift and D to make a copy. X, so it only moves across the X-axis. And I'm going to move it to about there. And when I move it around, you see I've got some nice sort of bands across. Now, they do look a bit stupid, look a bit daft with them coming out here, the curl across the curve here, just it doesn't really work. So I'm going to put some bands now across the bottom, across the box, that are going to fit and work out quite nicely with these bands across the top. So I'm going to press, I'm going to click on my box, I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate. I'm going to click off to release it, and I'm going to go into the front view by pressing 1, and I'm going to reduce the width of the X across the X-axis to 0.1. And then I'm going to go back into X-ray mode by pressing Shift and Z. I'm going to press G, X. I'm going to move it across until I'm going to hold down Shift so I get a more sort of precise position. I'm going to move it until it's as nearly placed as I can put it. So that fits nice and snugly with the bands across the top, or at least it does along when you see it from the side. If you look at it from the front, you'll notice that it is still a big block, and that really isn't what we're looking for. So I'm going to resize it along the Y-axis so it will fit nicely alongside these bands on the lid. Now, where the original lid was 0.4 across the Y-axis, the bands are 0.45, which means I've increased it by 0.05. So these two distances here, from there to there and there to there, are 0.025, which means that's how wide I want my my vertical band to be. So I'm going to click there and select my band. I'm going to change the Y-axis to 0.025. I'm going to view it from side on. I'm going to press G and Y to move it, and I'm going to sort of scroll it across here. Till it's fit nicely. I'm going to press Shift and D, and then press Y to move it across the Y-axis. I'm going to wait until you can spend a little bit more time positioning these. I'm kind of winging it a little bit just for the purpose of this video, but you can take a little bit more time positioning these. So I've got the two bands in there. I'm going to hold down Shift and select both of them. I'm then going to press 1 to get side on view. I'm going to scroll across. I'm going to hold down Shift, press D, press X, and I'm moving both of these bands. Made a copy of both of these bands, and I'm moving them to put them in position there. And now, when I look at my model, you can see it's got the bands all around the chest. I'm going to now press S just to save it, and then we're going to make it a little bit more exciting. So now we have the structure of our chest. It's now time to add a little colour to it. So I've gone online, I've got a couple of hex codes, one to represent oak and another one to represent sort of worn iron. So I'm going to click on my box. I'm going to click new, double click into the material name and call this oak, and where it says base colour, I'm going to change that to my hex code, which is 9777754. Tab, and you'll see that it's kind of changed it to a brown oaky colour. I'm going to click on my lid and I'm going to apply the oak colour to the lid as well. Then I'm going to click on my band. I'm going to click new, double click, iron, click on the base colour and put in my hex code, which is 273645. And you can see it's changing to a sort of an iron colour. I'm going to click on all of these other bands. I'm going to click iron to assign a new material. I'm going to click this arrow here and I'm going to click copy material to selected to apply it to all. And there is my chest. I'm going to turn back my wall and my box. I'm just going to have a look, see where it needs to be positioned. I'm going to hide them again. I'm going to right click on collection, go to new, double click to rename this chest. I'm going to select all of my chest items. I'm going to make sure that I don't select the light. I'm going to select all of my chest items. As I say, I'm making sure I'm not selecting the light there. I'm going to drag them into chest. I'm just going to close that off. So now I need to position this somewhere in my room. So I've turned them on. I've got my chest already selected. I'm going to go to G, Y, move it in. G, X, move it into the center a little bit. G, X. I'm going to take a view, side on, G, Z. And I'm going to lower it down to the ground. I'm going to move this about a bit so I've got it where I want it. So G, and then G, Y, G, X.